Okay, it is 2:04. We probably have most people now. This is the Game Design Live Chats. I'm Carla Kopp. I'm from Weird Draft Games and Galactic Raptor Games. I design, develop, publish stuff. And we have the amazing and fantastic Eric Slauson here. He's designed such games like Tattoo Stories. He's done Nerd Word Science. And also Mondrosity, that's coming soon from Deepwater. Yes.
Yeah.
Deepwater. I'm super excited about that one because you're drawing monsters.
Yes.
But anyway, you can introduce yourself probably better than I can. So who are you?
That's a pretty good job. I'm Eric Slauson. I design board games, and I usually focus more in like the party, social kind of game space, fillers, light games, family games. I also enjoy working on like narrative projects. So I've done some like story work in some games and working on some of the things I can't quite talk about yet, but that are more narratively based. But yeah, my whole deal is just getting people together and making people laugh and have a silly time, and just high energy games, I think is what I tend to make or try to make.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about games that make you feel good. So to start that off, what are some good examples of games that do make you feel great?
Well, I think it's personally, I like games where there's a lot of creativity, where you get to like make people laugh or make people people are like surprised by something you came up with, and that could be something as like like Scrabble or something where they're like, whoa, how'd you like, oh, you got the triple word and the double word, and that's a really long word, so it could be something as little as that where you just have a really cool play that everybody's excited about, or it could be something that literally kind of plays with physicality to like release those endorphins, like something like Happy Salmon, which has happy in its name, but there's like you're physically moving, so you're active, it's high energy, you're looking each other in the eye in order to like make connections with people, it's silly, so everybody is just naturally laughing, you're getting to yell, there's like some light person to person contact when you're fist bumping and high-fiving and happy salmoning and all that stuff, so it's doing some very clever things with like physical touch and the way that you move. So that one is, I mean, whenever somebody asks like, what's your favorite game? I always say Happy Salmon and people are like, what? And then I talk about it for like 30 minutes. But yeah, that one's way up there. I just recently discovered this game called Flatter Me on Kickstarter. I missed the Kickstarter. I think it was in April, but I was researching games that make you feel good or are emotionally positive, and this game came up. It's designed by this designer Amy Boya, I believe. Boyo. I'll look it up. I wrote it down. Amy Bayo, and it's a game where you flatter each other, basically. So you both lay down a card, and they both have compliments on them. And if one applies to both of you, then it's a tie. But if it applies to the other person, then they win both the cards. So it's like you have this discussion over like, oh no, like you're the brave one of us, and like, oh no, you're really brave too. And then it's like, oh, it's a tie. Or so it's a cool like frank discussion of each other's personalities, but they're all positive things. So like I'm in love with this game and crushed that I missed the Kickstarter, but I'm gonna have to wait to pick it up. But yeah, stuff like that, creativity, things that involve physicality and touch, and things that allow you to praise each other in some way.
So Matt asks, do you find that these sorts of games tend to appeal to a wider age range?
Games that make you feel good, or like I guess party style games.
Games that make you feel good, I think.
Yeah, I think in especially down, if aging down, it's nice to be able to play with a kid and not have to worry about like losing on purpose or yeah, like having too much take that in a game or something like that. It's you can play, I think, a cooperative game with a kid, I guess, more safely earlier than you can a competitive game. You could play D&D with like a 4-year-old, just be like, what do you want to do? And then they just make up whatever ridiculous thing, but you can't play, some hardcore take that game, because they're going to be crying. I mean, they got to learn sometime how to lose graciously, but as far as like, aging up, I think, I don't know if that applies as much, but I definitely think they're good at bringing people together, despite like differences, whether it be ages or interests or those sorts of things. But it's a good question.
So I'd assumed that a lot of the games you would talk about would be more cooperative, but it seems like they're more competitive. Do you find like that there's a lot of cooperative games, or are they mainly competitive?
Well, it's tricky. It's tricky because like what makes you feel good, is different for each person. Some people really enjoy that sense of feeling like, you're the smartest person in the room, or like that you beat everybody else. And I enjoy, playing games like that, and where, I have a long-term strategy, things like Onitama, or something even like a Reef or Sagrada or something, where you're like hate drafting and all that kind of stuff. Like I do enjoy that, and it provides that reward, like, yeah, I bested you, or I outthought you. But I feel myself being confronted with like it's at the cost of someone else, like and for me, the reverberations after the game doesn't tend to last for competitive games as long as they do these cooperative games or these like party games. Like if you win a game of chess, or whatever game it is, it's like cool, and then that's like the end of the story, or you get like this little dopamine rush, and then you're like, let's play again, or whatever. But like I mentioned, something like D&D or Kids on Bikes, or something that's even like an experience like nyctophobia or something like that. Like you're going to remember that experience because of how it makes you feel, I guess. So it may not even be positive versus negative. It's just like the effects you have on the other players, whether it's a positive or a negative experience, I guess. And I guess negative isn't even the right word. Just like how harsh of an experience is it? Is your joy coming at the cost of someone else's joy, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
Probably second that whole like well, with Nyctophobia, where I played it, and like I will probably remember that play of Nyctophobia like for a very long time, just because there was like so much emotions with it. Like it was the first time a game had like made me feel like real fear.
Mm-hmm.
Ananda, you have a question?
it's not really a question, but on the topic of like co-op versus competitive games, there's an interesting case in Galaxy Trucker that I haven't really seen anywhere else, where in the rules explicitly it says that anyone who has at least one credit and isn't in debt at the end of the game wins. And then it makes note, some people are more winners than others. So like the rules of the game, it's there isn't explicitly as the rules are written, there isn't one person who wins, but groups can choose to interpret that in different ways as they like, which I found to be really nice for players.
Yeah, that's a really cool. That's a really cool system, and I think there's room to play with that, in games. Like, because very easily they could have said the person with the most credits wins, or whatever. But that specifically allows that wiggle room for groups to be like, yeah, we all won. And, if you want to, you can say like, but I'm the CEO and you're the, you're my underling or whatever. And it goes back to competitive games, cooperative games. Either we all win or we all lose together. It's like if you can have a situation where you share some aspect, I think that's fun. But I think a part of it too is like is it or is the worry the end game state, like is losing devastating, and you've been playing this 4-hour game and you lose, like does that feel fun, or are we trying to make a game that has so many fun moments that you don't mind losing at the end, so it's tricky. You can kind of have it both ways. You can have even a crazy take that game, but if you get to do so many like combos and like really clever things, sometimes it's worth it. That's why we get addicted to something like Magic or Hearthstone or something like, it's infuriating when you lose or whatever, but up until that point you're like, yeah, I did that, and then
So Maddie had the question, how do you design for a mood, like being happy? Does the design process change, or do you still start with a theme mechanic and work on it until the mood intended comes out?
Ooh, that's a good question. I tend to be like theme first, and that I think usually ties into mood, whether it's accidental or not. But like as I designed a Titanic game, and probably that's not going to end up being a light, a light mood or something very happy or silly. So the kind of the mood followed the theme on that one. But as far as like myself, when I'm trying to increase the happiness of a game or the joy in the game, I guess I'm looking for inspiration from other games where I've seen people laughing or smiling or having some sort of externalizing their joy. I think for me, that's what I look for when I'm designing and when I'm playtesting. I if everybody plays my game and they're like, this is really good, I'm going to be like deflated. Like, even though everybody's like really positive about it, if nobody like has a belly laugh or nobody, is like smiling or going, or that kind of stuff, it doesn't mean the game's better or worse. It's just what I value. So I look for places like I was saying, Happy Salmon, where you have that physicality, or you have even simple things like players physically handing each other items. It forces you for a minute to like stop tunnel visioning at the game and the game state and like look at the person you're handing it to. It provides an opportunity for you to like, even trash talk somebody like, oh, you so-and-so, you took my card, or, I was saving that or whatever. Like little things like that are really useful for making a game more emotional, I guess.
Yeah, for me, like when I'm trying to I go more not like the belly laugh emotions, but more like the feeling really cool part. And what helps with that is just taking away the restrictions, like letting players do like everything that they think that they can do. Like instead of saying like, oh, you can only use one card on your turn, it's like you can, if you just stockpile cards all the time and then your last turn you're like, I'm going to use these 20 cards. You did something crazy and it took a long time, but like you did the thing. Like making sure like you incentivize the right win condition, like having like usually that player probably won't win the game. They'll have a moment, but yeah, incentivize the right thing, but allow players to do crazy stuff where, you know, have the epic move, use all these things together and explore. And usually people really like that.
Yeah. I think that, you know, for people who have played D&D for like a long time or in different situations, that's one of those things like that really depends on like the DM or the GM, like what experience you have and what type of D&D you're playing. Like when I have DM'd in the past, I am more on your side where it's just do literally whatever you want, and then I'll figure out, you know, what check you need to make. But you know, I've also played in games where people are like, nope, you can't do that. You're 27 feet away and your spell is only 25 feet. So, you know, you need to spend a movement action first. And then you know, it's like, look, we're supposed to be telling the story, you know, like just let me, you know, sprint and punch the guy. Like, so if it's within reason, you know, like I kind of remove those restrictions. But it's, yeah, I think rewarding creativity is a big part of board gaming, and it's a feedback that I get from publishers sometimes is like, this relies too much on creativity, or this demands too much from players, or some people aren't creative, or these types of creative experiences that I come up with. And you know, my counter to that would be like, well, you know, something like a deep strategy game is all about creativity. It's just a different type. You know, it's being able to look at a board state and be like, oh, I could do this, or I could use these same cards and do it this way. And you know, it's still rewarding creativity. It's just in a different way, or a different type of creativity. So yeah. So I took to Carlos' point, like allowing for creativity and flexibility, and removing those restrictions, I think is important too, and making you feel cool, especially in like a narrative-based game. I think is really, really important.
Because like even if like you try to do your plan and it fails, you still feel cool because you did that no one else did.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you at least had a good idea. So Justin had the question, when designing feel-good games, is it more the theme or specific mechanics that you feel contribute to the mood more?
Ooh. I would say both. I think the theme, this is tricky. I think the theme tends to push it more in a positive direction, or is more of a slider wheel that you can use to, if you have a completely abstract game, you can choose a theme, like I want this to be really serious, or I want this to be really silly, or I want this to be family friendly, or I want this to be, you know, violent or scary or whatever. Like you can slide that more flexibly, whereas some mechanics lend themselves more towards I guess happiness or the other direction. So, you know, something like a take that game, unless it's like really silly, you know, over the top, like something like we haven't play tested this. If you've ever played that, it's like completely broken and wonky and weird, but that's kind of like the point. Or Flux or something like that, where it's just like the craziest things happen. But you know, it's like can have take that elements, but I think if you start with a game that's going to be like really hardcore competition between players, then it's harder to swing back the other direction and make it, this fun, sunshine, positive belly laugh, kind of a kind of experience. I think for me, a lot of my games have a creative element, and some sort of I guess judging aspect or analysis aspect or rating scale or something, and that's its own form of competition, where it's like who had the best answer or who drew the best picture or whatever, but I structure it in such a way that it's not like a winner take all or like a zero sum kind of situation. It's everybody gets their moment to shine. Like everybody gets to show their picture or everybody gets to say their joke. And whether you win best joke of the round, everybody laughs when you're on stage, kind of. It's like, if you're in a stand-up competition or whatever, like you still get your moment on stage and everybody's laughing. And then whether you win or win or lose the competition is like a whole different thing, but you get that moment to shine. So those are some like, sorry, Ananda. Yeah. As you were saying earlier, like those sharing situations where you can share a victory or even, in sharing in a different way, sharing an answer or sharing something that you've made are kind of mechanical things that I look for putting in a game. But theme versus mechanics is like the age-old question of I need to change this game. And I don't know about Carla because you're on the publisher side, but I think principled maybe is too strong of a word, but I think you have like a type of game that you like and a feeling that you want players to have. But occasionally a publisher, you'll pitch them a game and they like the mechanics, but they want the theme way different. Or they really like the theme, but they want it to be mean or whatever. And so, or it's a mean game, but they want you to put a silly theme on it or, and kind of tweak some of the mechanics a little bit. So you have flexibility either way. I think it's just really thinking about, how do I want players to feel on every turn, and then trying to like optimize that, I guess, Yeah.
So you bring up publishers changing themes. Do you have like any themes that you would that are maybe your go-tos? Like if a publisher was like, "Hey, make this game like a lot happier," like
sure, dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs. And kids love dinosaurs. A lot of people love dinosaurs. I think it's very easy to do the art for dinosaurs in a bright, fun way or a scientific way or whatever. Animals, dogs, cats. We can see something like llama or whatever, like, candy and sweets are big too. Like a filler actually uses like the filling the pastries or whatever. So a lot of it has to do with art direction and stuff, but I think you can definitely have a good head start if you're like, this game's about dogs. People are gonna be like, yeah, or this game's about kittens. It's like, even if it's a take that, it's gonna be, you're kind of messaging to the audience. It's not going to be like Twilight Imperium or something like that. But yeah, those are my go-tos. If it's hey, we want something that is a family friendly take that. It's like, okay, well, you're dog walkers and you're trying to be the best dog walker or whatever. That's my go-to.
Yeah, like I don't know if you've ever seen me, but like talk about like the themes I like, but you basically said all of them. Like love dinosaurs and cats and weird animals and stuff like that. I haven't done the foods thing yet, but one day I will make a food game.
Yeah.
It's just so easy. Like, how do you not like food?
It's I mean, I'm at least going to stop and look at it. You know, like New York Slice. I like pizza. Let's play it. You know.
Yeah, because that's a super good point. Because like, yeah, like you like pizza, so you already like the game. Like we have all these memories probably of food and stuff. Like you probably have a favorite pizza memory, or like thinking about pizza makes you happy. Because
Eric, have you played Mamma Mia?
I have not played Mamma Mia.
It's a pretty good game about pizza.
Ooh, I'll put it on my Google Keep.
Yeah, recommendation there.
Okay, so one of the things you brought up a lot of great things. So great for you on that one. But you talked about the judging aspect being like one of the mechanisms that you go to to make really good positive games. Are there any other like positive mechanisms that you like?
I think as far as things that are directly competitive, but still allow you to have moments of like success. I've had really good experiences with engine builders because you get to feel your engine might actually not be good compared to everybody else's at the table, but usually it still feels like it's working, you know, like, oh yeah, I draw blue and every time I draw blue, I get 2 reds. And every time I get 2 reds, I get a green. And, you know, it's, and, you know, the person beside you might, you know, have gotten 15 tokens that turn from something crazy they did. But I think engine building is neat because you have your own little world. And until you compare it directly with other players at the end, especially if the points are obscured until the very end, like you have no way of knowing how well or poorly you're doing unless you play the game like several times and you get like a sense for, on average, half of the game I should have at least 40 points or whatever. But I with that too, as I mentioned, like obscuring the points, I think is a very clever thing that you can do, as long as it doesn't prevent people from making smart decisions, I guess, meta decisions. But if you can obscure points in some way, to me, it allows you to have like positive and take that and all kinds of things, and you don't really know the weight of it. And even if you lose at the end, it's less of a sting than if you know you're losing the entire game and you can't do anything about it. Or, you know, like if you're just in last place the whole time and, you know, after like 4 turns, you're like, okay, well, I obviously don't understand what I'm doing in this game, but you have to like sit through it. I think if I was playing that same game and at the end I found out I lost by a whole lot, it's like, oh, okay, well, all right. Somebody explain what I did wrong here. I think not necessarily a mechanism too, but you can get away with a lot more the shorter your game is. You can have a take that game, or, you know, something if it's a 15-minute game or a 20-minute game or a 30-minute game. You know, you can knock out a Lost Cities, or, you know, even something like Sagrada if everybody knows what they're doing, and, you know, you're hate drafting from each other and you're, you know, looking at each other's boards like, oh no, he's gonna win, and he's, you know, there's a lot of tension, but it's a fast game, so there's not a lot of investment in it. But so if you are really looking for systems that allow for some flexibility, I think engine building is fun to play with. Deck building as well. bag builders, any builders, allow you to have like incremental moments of feeling like you're a genius, yeah. And also, as I was mentioning, anything where you can physically create something and show it to other players, I think is always fun.
Okay, so I really also agree with the obscuring, like the points, because, well, for all the reasons you said, like if you are only losing or like you only know that you've lost for like 5 seconds and then it's just like clean up the game, that's so much better than knowing for like even 5 minutes like that you're going to lose. So what I usually do is just have hidden objectives. But do you have like any other solution to that to try to make it like obscure?
Hidden objectives are good. I like hidden objectives also because it has that like you're getting away with something. It's like sneaky, like, oh, he thinks he took the card that I need, but I actually needed this other card. So like that's a fun little thing. Obscuring points. I think having games that are very close, if the points are always very close, because of the nature of the way points are given out, that's almost a way of obscuring things. I mean, you could argue that it makes like the last turn the most important and things like that. But if you can, that almost like keeps the tension the whole game. Oh, I'm only 2 points away, and you can earn up to 3 points every turn, so I have to stay on my game those sorts of things. But yeah, I'm not sure what I would use aside from hidden objectives and trying to optimize or shorten the gap, the average gap of points.
Well, one thing I like to do is to have a slow way to win and a fast way to win. Where the fast way is like something that's really hard to do, but if you do it, you immediately win. So that even if someone is behind on the slow way to win and they can see they're behind, they still have this hope that if they can line things up just right, they can do the instant win. And of course, the person who's way ahead always has to be watching out to make sure that they don't do that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say it goes back to what you said about having flexibility for games and avenues of mechanics, I guess, and choices for players.
So what are all the different positive emotions you can have during a game?
Ooh. Well, this goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier. Like, it's very subjective because, again, some people have a very positive reaction to outsmarting someone or stealing all of their gold or whatever it is. But I think joy, whether that is being made happy by like a compliment. I was talking about Amy's game earlier, or something like that actually makes you laugh. Surprise, I find, is a very, very powerful emotion, and all of the games that I have signed have some element of surprise in them, whether it's the reveal of the tattoo that you drew in Tattoo Stories, or the reveal of what the monster actually looked like in Monstrosity, or the reveal of what the hidden word was in Nerd Words. I think it's like the Jack in the Box. Everybody likes like, oh, it's gonna happen. We're gonna see what's in there or whatever. So I think surprise is a very powerful thing. Joy. cooperation, and what's the word I'm looking for? Validation and appreciation of something you did, I think, also. And this comes down somewhat to your play group as well, unless you really incentivize it in your game. But, for very friendly groups or, Care Bear, Huggy, like, oh, it's not super competitive groups. Even if you're playing a competitive game, you're like, oh man, that was a really good play. Or, it's like sportsmanship, I guess. So, you can have that feeling of being appreciated for something that you came up with, or a strategy that everybody's like, oh, that was brilliant. Or, it's why people play like these social deduction games. Even though you're feeling scared the whole time and nervous, that you're going to get found out, or you're not going to be able to find the werewolf or whatever. At the end, there's like this conversation that happens of like, oh my gosh, when you said this, like that was so smart, because I thought this was like, everybody kind of pats each other on the back for like a lie that they did, or something that they figured out, or like, oh, when I said this, I knew you knew what I was lying because I saw your eye. Like these moments where you can appreciate each other's brilliance or creativity. So validation and appreciation, joy, surprise. Those are the things that I really try to put in front of gamers, or give to groups. But if it's like roller coasters. That's not a positive feeling. I mean, your body thinks you're going to die. Like it's adrenaline and shock and fear, but that's what you want in that moment. So in that moment, it's positive. So I don't know. It's flexible.
Yeah, like that's really the surprising part to me, like where you were talking about all these emotions that aren't necessarily positive, but they lead to a positive experience at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a tightrope. That's game design is it's very, very tricky. It's like baking, where one half a teaspoon is like a disaster if it's the wrong ingredient. So a little bit of take that may make your game like have some tension, but if it was just like a little bit more, it's mean. So it's finding that balance for me. And again, all of this with a grain of salt. I'm not necessarily putting a value judgment on Take That Games or big chunky euros or anything like that. Like I said, I enjoy playing those. This is more just like what I enjoy, or what I find fulfilling to give to players, I guess. But
yeah, there's all kinds of games and all kinds of gamers, so
mm-hmm.
you can't like appeal to everyone. Like no game probably does that. So are there any mechanics that you tend to avoid using when creating more positive games?
I think we touched on Take That a little bit. I think it's very hard to do that with like a positive spin on it, unless you make it so silly that it might as well not matter. Like the game, winning or losing doesn't matter. It's just like the silly things that happen during the game, or somebody is going to get absolutely blown out of the water, and so it doesn't matter if you lose, and it becomes like how showy you can be about it. It's like I'm trying to think of an example. Yeah, I don't know. I'll come back to that. But I think Take That is very tricky, and definitely things that like losing a turn, I think is just like you better have a really good reason why a player loses a turn, because that takes away any of their ability to like have agency during their turn, or to show how smart they are, or it's like takes away all of that for a significant portion of time, depending on how many players are in the game and how fast turns are. Also, speed of turns, I think too. While it's not necessarily like a mechanic, I try to avoid things with like a lot of like AP potential, because it's going to elongate the game, which puts more weight on the game. Not necessarily complexity weight, but like time investment, and whether you win or lose is going to matter more. And if it comes back to you, all the way back to you, and you're like, oh, like, okay, well, my plan's ruined now. Now I have to sit here and think about what I'm going to do, because the board state has changed so much since when I was sitting. It's more likely to cause like frustration and boredom while you're waiting for people's turns to come around. And people are going to be so focused on analyzing their own moves that they're less likely to appreciate your moves. I think, which is another thing that I look for is if I can have people looking up, more at each other, is something that I look for. So, yeah. So those are probably my big ones. Losing a turn, big no. Take that. Depends. And then things that have heavy AP.
Yeah, I agree with especially the AP thing, because it like the more time you give people, the more like they can get distracted and get out of the game, and then like once somebody's out, it's really hard to get them back in.
Mm-hmm.
Joel had the question, are there any types of games that help mitigate the player that ruins the fun of the game?
Ooh. Sorry, is there a way to prevent that, or are there games that do that?
Is there like a way to prevent that?
Don't invite them to game night. This is the big one. I think there's some aspect of design, like you do the best that you can, and if people want to cheat, they're going to cheat. If people want to play your party game in complete silence, like they can, like you just, I guess, you optimize it in some way. But mitigating somebody who's being like a grump, or I mean, you can have like a timer on turns for mitigation. You can do something like we were talking to Maddie earlier, like simultaneous play and simultaneous action selection, where there's like a group timer, and like, all right, there's like that social pressure to not take forever on your turn. Yeah, I guess if it's one person and they are already fighting your game and fighting everybody else having fun, there's like not much you can do, as a designer. They've kind of made their choice, and it's up to you to kind of figure out your game group at that point. But yeah, I don't know. It's whether the player is actually playing in good faith or not.
Yeah, I do agree with your suggestion for the simultaneous play, because like at least then like they're not taking up extra time. Like you can maybe kind of ignore them if it's the right kind of simultaneous play to do so. But yeah, just don't play with them.
Yeah, it's delicate when there's an odd man out, or somebody who's having a different experience than everybody else is. But it happens in it happens in D&D and stuff all the time. Like there's people, if a party gets together for the first time and they're either strangers, or there's a new GM, or you've just you're playing at a con or something, and you know, 3 of the people are, you know, really into trying to figure out the mystery, and the one person just wants to like kill everybody. You know, they're just like, I stab him, you know. And that's just what they enjoy, you know, like they're having fun, you know. So you have to figure out some way to navigate that as the GM. It's like, okay, well, now I have to reevaluate my campaign and try to figure out some way to prevent them from stabbing everybody. So yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah, like what you were saying about like the different gamer types and like appealing, like each player wanting like a certain thing. Like if you in your game design like try to have like even if it's a party game, if there's like something you can do strategy wise or like some option, as long as the person is like actually trying to engage, I think that should help. Like it shouldn't be like a straight party. Well, straight party games are fine, but like if you want to appeal to like those people that love party games, but they also always make their spouse play as well, like give them something. Like here's some polyominoes, you make a pretty picture, and the rest.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, if you could I mean, if you could add some crunchiness to it a little bit to get that other person into what they're doing. Ooh, a very good example of this. Oh no. Cell Phone Inc., right? That's the name of the game. So Cell Phone Inc., I don't like because it's very long and a little bit heavy for me. I think if I played it a couple more times and really understood what I'm supposed to be doing and what the like optimal strategies are, my first time playing it was not great. But I did love the little spatial puzzle of trying to figure out how to get my resources. Like if you haven't played Smartphone Inc. If you haven't played Smartphone Inc., the way you get your resources in between each turn is you have these little like double-sided dominoes almost, and you can like lay them on top of each other in different orientations, and whatever is showing you get. So you like, in order to, you know, get more trucks, you're going to have to cover up that battery or whatever. So it becomes this like optimization puzzle of like, oh, I really want more batteries, but like, I don't want to get rid of that truck. And so it's like that was the game I really liked. And then I was like, I'll put it here. I don't know. You know, I went to the actual game and was like, I'll just do this over here and this. Oh, I lose. Okay. All right. But now I'm going to go play this puzzle again. So, it was almost like I got this light game, this little puzzle game. And everybody else was playing this, you know, this big box game over here. So I think that's a very clever suggestion, Carla, looking for a way that you can have different competencies celebrated, I guess, or different things rewarded in a game.
So do you have any ways that you try to promote positive interactions between players in your games?
I think for me, it's my rounds are very fast, and the structure of them tends to be very what's the word I'm looking for? Like incremental, I guess. So to give an example for Monstrosity, the way a round works is, well, the idea of the game is that you're somebody has seen an alien or a creature, and like some weird government organization comes to like take your statement for what the alien looks like, and you draw it based on the witness's description. So what happens is the witness draws one of these monster cards, and they're able to look at it for 20 seconds. So in that 20 seconds, you get a moment of surprise because you've never seen this creature before. And so you're like, okay, this thing's crazy. And then you get this sense of tension because you know you have to memorize this thing in 20 seconds. And then so like there's a lot for you going on. while that 20 seconds is going on, for the other players, there's suspense. It's only 20 seconds of suspense, but they're like, oh, what's he going to say? How is he going to, describe this? So then you put this down. For the next 2 minutes, you're describing this monster to the other players, and they're all secretly drawing their own drawing based on your description. So during again, like Carla, what you're saying, you're playing different games. As the witness, your job is to describe this thing you can't see anymore the best job that you can. So it's like this tense, like how many legs did it have? And, like, oh, how tall was it? And they're asking you questions, and the more questions they're asking you, the more you're forgetting. And, you're worried that you're describing this thing completely wrong. For the other players, they're like, the tension is, am I drawing this thing correctly? So that's like during that 2 minutes. And then at the end of the 2 minutes, you all show each other your drawings. And then you get that moment of like, oh yeah, or like, oh, oh, I think your legs are the closest, or I think your eyes are the closest, or and then the witness actually shows the creature, the card that they drew, which they haven't seen for like 3 minutes at that point, and everybody gets that surprise of like, oh, like I was, you were really close, and we thought you were way far off. So there's like all these little beats during a round where you're injecting like micro happiness, I guess. Like, there's like this moment of surprise, this moment of shock, this extension of tension. So yeah, I guess I try to if a round is long, there better be moments during that round that are different, like that are moments of downtime, moments of excitement. It's the same thing for I come back to D&D again. Like, you're playing for 3 hours. It's going to be exhausting if it's like intense action the whole time. Please have them talk to somebody, or a mystery to solve, or a treasure to hunt, that's hidden in the dungeon they're in, or something like that. Like, you got to add a little bit of different emotions in there. But yeah, I think look for spots of like micro happiness, I guess, in turns. Mm-hmm. is what I try to do.
Yeah, I think it's really important that you pointed out like the downtime does have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like some downtime is good. Ever since COVID started, like if I play games in person, I play 2-player games, which is not my usual.
Yeah.
And like it's actually kind of exhausting to play 2-player games because it's always your turn. It's always like I have to do something right now, when like I'm used to like 4-player games, like
yeah,
or even more, where like I get the chance to think, and that can definitely be nice.
Yeah. And even something like a drafting game when it's 2 players, and like something like King Domino, it's like you're only drafted 2 pieces, but it's like boom, 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 boom. Like you don't get a chance to think about your second move. Like in Sagrada or something, there's like 4 people that go, and then it snakes back to you, and you're the whole time you're like, oh, don't take that red, don't take, that kind of stuff. But when a 2-player version, it's like I take that, or you're really messing with the flow of the game, taking too long and agonizing over what you want to draft. So that's interesting. I've been playing more 2-player games obviously as well, but yeah, I haven't thought about the lack of downtime that it makes. It's a positive and a negative, I guess. The games go faster, but it's definitely more an intense play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's as you said, like there's less of the other emotions. Like you don't get that time to be like, whoa, I did a clever thing, or like that tension of like, am I going to get to do the thing I want to do? Like you don't get to make plans and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess it's the lack of tension, because it's your turn again. Like, oh, is he gonna do the? Oh, he did the thing. Oh, is he gonna get? He got the thing. You don't even get a chance to worry, or have those negative emotions that are actually positive. So that's interesting. I think I was thinking also, it was rattled loose in my brain, but we've been talking a lot about like mechanics that incentivize different emotions and feelings. And I was thinking about the inspiration system in D&D, which is like one of my favorite things that they've done, which essentially allows the GM to give like an inspiration point for something really cool that you come up with for your character to do. Like you solved that problem in a really interesting way, or that was like a really interesting comeback to the NPC or something like that. And it almost is a way we're talking about for that fourth person who wants to stab everybody. Like you're not going to get an inspiration point, and it might come in handy later. So maybe, try to surprise the GM at one point. And if you see the GM handing out inspiration points like candy to these other players, it's a cool tool to use as a GM to kind of course correct and send some subtle cues to players like that. I'm really rewarding creative thought here, not massacre. So that's a good, a neat system that I really like. That I was just thinking about.
So we're getting towards the end of it. Does anyone else have any questions or anything they'd like to know? Eric, what's exciting and happening in your world?
Tattoo Stories is out. A lot of people playing it and posting about it and appreciating it, and it's doing really well over Zoom, which is great. That was totally on accident, but it's allowing people to play with their friends and family over Zoom and stuff, which has been great to see. Similar for Nerd Word Science, a lot of people have been playing that, and especially like teachers and nerds have been playing that. Monstrosity, I'm so excited about, not only because of just the emotions that it provides, but the art. Because it relies on that sense of shock when you see the cards of the monsters and the aliens. Like we reached out to just like the craziest people we could find, like people who have crazy creature concepts and that are very hard to describe. So really excited for that to come out and for people to see the art in that, and to be shocked and surprised and to struggle to describe things. I have another game coming out, I think later this year, maybe early next year, called Everybody Poops. It's a party game about poop that it uses a lot of my my design philosophy in a very different way. But it's quick turns and creative thought, and sharing. Oversharing in some ways, but that I'm excited for that to come out as well. That's going to be through Gray Fox Games actually, or Social Sloth. I'm not sure which one they're running that through, but yeah. So that's my that's coming up. So.
Well, that's super exciting, and that's also great to know that you can play Tattoo Stories over Zoom, because that makes it. I enjoy playing games with people.
Yes, more than one other person.
Also, so Matt has this final question. If you could suggest one thing to leave us with to think about, what might that be?
Ooh, one thing to think about. Here's what I'll say. Regardless of negative, positive, competitive, cooperative, whatever theme, mechanic you're trying to do, think about how you can do something that no one else is doing or few people are doing. And not necessarily just for like, marketability or whatever, because in some ways, like we see that, oh, this is these medieval guys and they're killing these monsters. Like, that's a very easy, just it's gonna sell. Like you can do that. But like think about what you can offer that isn't being offered. Like I have a really hard time getting excited for some game ideas that I come up with. Like, oh, it's just going to be this game where you draft these things and then you come up with this like tableau. And I can find a million games that are already doing that, and they have beautiful art already, and they're elegant and stuff. And so I have a hard time getting excited about those and finishing those projects. But if I come up with something like, Tattoo Stories or Monstrosity, where I'm like, okay, well, after a bunch of research, like, well, there's not, all these micro moments, and it's about aliens, and it's your drawing, but it doesn't matter the quality of your drawing, and I look for ways to find offer something new, offer something new, I guess, or unique, because somebody out there is looking for that. I have a lot of artists who talk to me about Tattoo Stories because like the quality of your drawing doesn't matter. It's the quality of your idea. But because of the way the game works, they are allowed to draw to the best of their ability. And normally people don't like playing drawing games with them because it's like Pictionary, oh, that's a bike. Like, oh, that's a, like they're too good. And so they have to like, tone it down. But in Tattoo Stories, they can just draw to their heart's content and be as creative as they want, because they're really competing against how creative the other players are, not how well they can draw. So that I was looking for I was trying to make a game that was as much for artists as for people who can't draw at all. So that was what I was looking for. So I guess if your game is super take that and mean, make it mean in a way that is different than the other mean games. Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, that was a great note to end it on. Eric, you're amazing. How can people reach out and find you?
So I am on Twitter and Instagram at Slauson Designs, SLAUSON Designs. I am on BGG. I try to stay on top of like commenting on people's comments and stuff on my games and stuff on BGG. I'm pretty active in most of the Facebook groups and stuff. So if you see, just I'm in those conversations. As well, whenever conventions start happening again, come see me. I spend a lot of time in booth at conventions. Not as much even about like selling the games. I just like interacting with people as they're playing the game. The publishers actually get somewhat frustrated sometimes because I don't tell people that I'm the designer, and they're like, you should tell people, because they get really excited and like it makes them want to buy the game more because there's like a personal connection. I'm like, I just want to see them play. But yeah, come see me, come talk to me at a booth. I'm at the bicycle booth a lot, Genius Games booth. I'll probably be at the Gray Fox booth, definitely the Deepwater booth. So I'll be somewhere walking around. So, yeah. But yes, feel free to reach out, shoot me a DM or something, especially if you have a question. If you want to talk through a conundrum you have in your design or something like that, I'm more than willing to help. I'm only here because of the people who gave me a lot of help up to this point. So pay it forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was great. I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, guys.